Over in Walcott, Iowa, near the border of Illinois, they have the world's largest truck stop. And at this truck stop, they put up a museum of all the trucks that have been in service in the U.S., some of them imports, but most of these vehicles are from the U.S. Here's this Pierce Arrow. Anyhow, it's located on I-80. I-80 running from Sacramento, California area all the way over to the New Jersey, New York area. And halfway between, out in the middle of the farms in Iowa, here we got a 1903 Eldridge. Maximum speed, 10 miles. Pretty much looks like a wagon. Here's a little bit of history on our old gas pumps we used to use back in the day of David Rockefeller running everything. Kind of still does. I don't think we use that much in the trucking industry. Probably up in Alaska and Canada, though. Old International Harvester. This is interesting because it's one of the first electric. A lot of people think electric vehicles with Elon Musk or some new fad. No, they've been around since the early 1900s. Anyhow, here's a lot of the trucking companies been around over the years. My grandfather, I'm in trucking. My grandfather used to work for that company. I'm kind of for hire, so I don't work for one set company. Here's Mack. They're still used. Some of them are over-the-road trucks to these days. Most of them are driving local dump trucks and stuff like that. Here's an old Coke truck. And then this Mack's obviously a fuel oil dump. We'll just give you guys a real quick tour. Aerodynamics is one thing that we haven't gotten right in this country, but we used to have that principle understood. If you see modern RVs, none of them look like that. The cars don't look like that. Europe brought a lot of that in, but we kind of abandoned it. The principle of aerodynamics. The company Aptera is bringing it back in their three-wheeled enclosed motorcycle, electric vehicle, 1,000-mile range. Some of these things don't change just because of stubbornness and expense in tooling. Some of it doesn't change because of corruptions like the Rockefeller types. Think that they need to have monopolies on everything. I'm all for free market, not a communist at all. But I'm all for free market. And in a free market, you need to control monopolies. The regulations should be holding back the big boys, not the little guys. The little guys should be less regulated. And government regulation, a lot of people don't recognize it this way, but it's a tax. When you got a government coming and making orders and everything, you know, they shouldn't be going around just making orders. You know? There should be a victim before we get in and start over-regulating everything. We'll come back and look at the center. This is an insulated delivery truck, keeping stuff from freezing. or keep it freezing, as this company was a meat company. Here's the Unimog, one of the most famous European-made. This one, obviously, Unimog is made by Mercedes, but kind of a competition for the Humvee. It's a little higher center of gravity than Humvee, but look at the clearance you got on that to get over rocks. Russia made trucks similar to that with pretty high clearance. And here's one, since we're going by this side of it, for doing post holes, probably telephone lines, for doing the big grid. Nikola Tesla was in favor of the grid, but it was Edison that loved the DC. But I actually, with our ability to produce power so easily, I actually prefer the Edison way, even though Nikola Tesla is one of my heroes. Back of the Unimog there. Used to drive a Kenworth a few years back. Not like this one. Now I drive a freight. Ford used to be, still is in farm vehicles, but they used to even get in to the haulers. Like this one has a fifth wheel on the back. By Autocar out of Pennsylvania. And Yawarsky by Mac. I don't know what a Yawarsky is, but maybe I'll get in here so you guys can figure out why it says Yawarsky. Looks like it's got a direct drive chain drive instead of a sealed gearbox like we run nowadays. Don't get your hair cut in that one. Here's one hauling a farm dozer. Loomis Brothers, from the Loomis Fargo, eventually they merged, I believe. By Mac. General Contractors, it says on the side there. Beautiful cars. Reminds me of the great comedian Jay Leno and his love for cars. Studying the history of it. It is a fascinating history. So, concrete hauler. Here they have an expose on the engine brake, which allows us to take our heavy rigs down very steep inclines nowadays. They don't make them this simple. Diesel engines are still pretty simple, but this sucker's pretty darn simple. Seems like Mac used to be the king daddy of all the big haulers. They're not so anymore. They got a lot of competition from Freight and Volvo. But Mac used to own the rigs back then. When I was a kid, I used to see stuff like this still on the road. Trucks lasted a lot longer back then. Now, shoot, our rigs last 3-4 years and they're gone. Of course, we go a lot faster. I think we haul more. I used to be able to haul with my heavy haul rig. That was Kenworth. And I could haul a maximum of 112,000 pounds with that rig, with its axle setup. Traditional modern semis carry around 80,000 gross. This Fagil, I'm not sure, was owned by the founder of Peterbilt. And I don't think it's from US. I think last time I came in, they had a couple more electric vehicles on display. But I think this time only one. The Model T, a lot of people think flexi fuel is a new thing, but the Model T used to be a flexi fuel vehicle. It could run on, if you're in the farm, rural areas, you could fill up on alcohol. And then when you were in the city, you could go get your Rockefeller-made gasoline. It ran on both of them. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe that's the fact. Nice old Pete. That was my first truck, was a Pete. Dodge still hanging on in the heavy farm equipment. They still do that. I remember seeing this truck. I drive a rider lease right now, actually. And I remember seeing this truck in Salt Lake City once when I was a boy. When they're trying to make semis a little more aerodynamic. What a novel idea. Didn't last long. This one, I don't think, I only saw it once my whole career. My whole childhood, not career. And here, these guys are still being around. I still see cab overs like this old Kenworth. They still are around. This is from the Mac Daddy truck drivers. Always getting on the CBs, making themselves loud and proud. Smokey and the Bandit years. Another cab over. Here's one, has unique tires. Morgan, you want to describe what it says here for the unique tires? You noticed this? The tread. Want me to read pretty much the tread's solid, right?
Yeah, it's just solid rubber.
They still have like forklifts and stuff using technology like this, some construction equipment. But as you can see, this kind of technology in your treads, the tires can only go 15 miles an hour. So it needs to be a really smooth surface or it gouges into that, doesn't flex over imperfections in the road like this pneumatic tire this truck can do. A Federal. Never driven a Federal? Then here's a Comanche made by Jeep with a nice remake on the pulling clasps there. And that definitely didn't come back in the day when this was made. Here, this is 1979. I was 4 years old when this was put into production. I have driven a few internationals over the years. They're still out and about quite a bit. Here's a pintle hook trailer. I guess they want to haul around a bunch of brass radiators. And then we'll give you back this truck rig here. They don't have a fifth wheel on there, but I'll bet you anything it had one. This old Pete. Here's a nice Kenworth. Pete and Kenworth now run PACCAR engines. They're near identical except for the interior. Kenworth has never decided to re-up their interior from the 1950s till now. That's a joke. Pete's are more comfy inside. Anyhow, these guys were made pretty much by making pegs. You can make them right out on the farm if you needed to, mainly for a farm truck, really old farm truck. And here you see a old farm scale for weighing out your taters or whatever. 1910 Avery, calling it a tractor. So another Faggio, foreign, I believe. Oh, they're saying that was out of Washington. I thought the Faggio was European. I might be wrong on that. Armored vehicle. Flathead engine here and a Diamond 1948 1-ton pickup.
1925 International Model, 63 Street, Washington. 1928 Fuego, 130 Fire 4.
And we got a lot more down that way. And then here we have an old Kenworth, back when aerodynamics didn't matter again. Hit 50 miles an hour though. Bullnose sounds cool. Doesn't run efficient for your fuel. I guess it doesn't matter if you're able to buy fuel really cheap. Fuel was cheaper back then. But there's a lot of reasons to run more efficiently. I think most people understand that now. GMC even, look at that, got into the fifth wheel hauling with this rig. Fifth wheel referring to it has a fifth wheel hitch here. I'll get you a better look at that on another rig that shows it easier. But here, we'll let you look at that specs on it. Here's a GMC, and there's that fifth wheel I was talking about. That plate, and then it has a kingpin that will come in and hook in right there. That's a corn husker in the back there. We'll go to that next. Here's another International though. We'll get you a better look at the fifth wheel for those that aren't familiar with what it is. Most trailers, if it's your regular 2-inch ball, we call that a bumper pull in the trucker world. This is a fifth wheel, and then the hotshot truckers, the smaller, less than a truckload haulers, they sometimes use a gooseneck, which it has a ball sticking up out of, instead of that hinging plate, it's just got a ball coming out of their bed. And then they have a great big neck that comes down on top of the ball. So it's similar to a bumper pull, but it hooks on in the back of the bed of your truck. Here's this old truck. Let's get a good look at it. Old combine of sorts for doing grains. and corn. They have a special rig on the front to protect the radiator from all the husks that would fill up your radiator and clog it up. So, John Deere. Made by Ford. For John Deere. For hauling the logs. This is just at the border of Reno, Nevada, and California, where this truck ran out of, Truckee, California. They don't have a lot of these trees anymore. I'm not a tree hugger, but some of the companies, they're bastards. All they want is the money. And they are willing to just go cut all that stuff down. I knew of a case where they went and cut down all these big redwoods and that in the California forests and shipped them all to Paraguay and turned them into railroad ties, you know. And we did it very unsustainably. I think it's fine to use your forest. The hippies are wrong, trying to say we should never use a tree. You know, humans got to exist, but we need to do it smart. I think most people get that. I don't think everybody buys off on the CNN bullshit. Communist News Network. Anyhow, here's an old towing rig. One-ton tower. Relay 1929. Look at that nice brass on that radiator. Pneumatic tires, dually pneumatics in the back. It's a nice old truck. Speaking of really nice brass radiators, most of your radiators now are made out of plastic and aluminum. And here is the first, or one of the first concepts of the fifth wheel hitch. These guys have the more modern version, even though they're an older truck also. But they have a modern fifth wheel plate in there. Our fifth wheel plates are very similar to that. Here's one with what we call a half sleeper cab. It's got a tiny little room there for you to sleep in, but not too much, but we call that a half sleeper. But nowadays, our over-the-road trucks, kind of like an RV without a shitter. There they go, getting some big pneumatics there. Look at the amount of leaf springs they got there. That's modern trucking style there. 1.5 foot thick of leaf springs. Here's the old Studebakers. Let me show you these old Studes. They're nice. They don't make them like that. Look at that. Studebaker was trying to do some aerodynamic, efficient stuff. Sure, we've made them out of more lightweight composites, and weight matters a lot too, but aerodynamics still matter. That's where I believe Elon Musk is getting it all wrong. If you can lighten the load just a little bit, you can cut down your efficiencies like crazy. 18 half ton. All out of wood. Steel frame though. A spring bumper. Drum brake system in the back. Right there. An old freight with a boom on it for craning objects. United, they're still in business and still doing the same thing this rig was designed for. This was made by Chevy. Chevy, when they were trying to compete in the hauling business, they don't do that now. But you got a fifth wheel hitch here. And this rig is for moving your property. Here's a 1918 Independent, another wood cab with a metal beam that the vehicle's built on. Auto car. Packard with a dump on it. Got to see this from the side. It's got a dumping. It's all mechanical. It's not being run off of hydraulics. And then here's Mac 1915. My, how have they changed. Hand crank. That's your starter motor. I don't know what this was for, but probably a farm vehicle of sorts. This sucker, they say, could go 24 miles an hour, but it's non-pneumatics on the tires, so 24 would be the max you'd want to do on this. Probably need to be in soft dirt to get 24 too. Something to help cushion the load. Fresh plowed dirt, maybe you could drive that fast in it. Here's an old International. It's got a rig on the back for doing weight transfer operations in the back over that beam. It's not that boom. We'll get to the boom in a bit. Here's our old tankers from back in the pioneer days. Not even a pintle hook. It's the old wagon connection. You'd be shocked though. Here's our modern tankers compared to the other one. I mean, obviously we can haul 4 or 5 times this amount now with our new rigs. I don't like hauling liquid. Usually the hazmat is liquid. Here's a Diamond T921 cab over. One of the first cab overs. And this one's set up for hauling cattle and livestock. Post hole digger I showed you earlier. There's another straight bed, but more than likely it had a fifth wheel mounted on here at one point. I got my kids one of these. It was a remake because that's actually from the 40s. I don't know where it is. I might have it in storage still. My kids didn't play with it much. But it was a pedal car. You'd get in it and pedal it like a tricycle. Here's another GMC. I didn't get to see the side of that. I think it's a cattle. It's definitely farm vehicle. It's farm. It could be any kind of cattle or bagged greens, that kind of stuff. And here we got a boom on this white wrecker. Makes sense that that's a wrecker. Pulling everybody's crazy accidents when they're drunk and driving down cliffs. Here's a really nice one by Autocar Diesel. Looks like it's out of stainless steel. I wonder if that's the case. Oh my gosh. Autocar made of stainless steel. That sucker lasts forever. Look at that. It's probably brand. I don't even see dents in it. Brand new. Still looks just perfect. No need for paint on a stainless steel. You won't see automakers do that. They don't want a vehicle that lasts forever like this. That sucker would last forever. Now, I wouldn't care about my bumper. I would want my bumper out of plastic or something so I could hit deer and not destroy all my fancy stainless. But, you know, a lot of guys are a little different than that. Here's our nutcrackers. I guess we decided to bring in a little bit of Russian Christmas holiday here in the U.S. to this Texaco service station. And then here's a vulcanizer from back in the day when you'd need to coat your tires in rubber. You put in the metal there and then it would vulcanize it. And then here's one of our first low boy configurations with a bare bones dozer. Probably designed for the military. It looks like it's a Caterpillar. Yeah, it's Caterpillar. But this isn't the actual low boy configuration because the low boy can disconnect from right here and you can just drive it right on, and then the rig comes and hooks back on here when it's ready to haul it away. And of course, this one wasn't designed. Did you want to say something, Morgan? Oh. And then of course right here, it's a direct drive, chain drive. You have a transmission come clear back here and then runs the chain. Like I say, don't get your hair cut in there. One of the first concepts though. See, that's the reason you do need ingenuity. You need people being able to have profits. That's what causes people to invent something new. That's what all this is about. But also, if you get crony capitalism, where you get these big boys, Walmarts and everybody. I mean, look at Home Depot. Home Depot's got Lowe's and Ace and several other people still competing. If you lose all competition, you know, you get these mega sweetheart deals that Walmart gets to go and develop Granny's house into their new parking lot. And, you know, we need free market, but we don't need the crony capitalism. We need the monopolies kept at bay. You know, that's what all of this is a history of human creativity. Here's the last thing I'll show you for this video. How they used to make the boxes here for Coca-Cola. So first go by and paint in yellow that with that brush system, and then it'd go by and change colors of paint once it cured over here. Once that cured and you want to do the stenciling, then you come by with that rubber mat and that would roll by and paint your Coke boxes. Ingenuity. We still need it. We don't need mega corporations. We need everybody being able to compete. We especially need the little guys. I once met a military friend of mine, and he seemed to stand for the Constitution and the rule of law. And then he graduated, and the military didn't have a place for him for his officership, so he was going to go join the reserves. And he was going to become an IRS agent. I go, what happened to you? How could you go and be an IRS agent and say you believe the Constitution and want the American people to succeed and free market and all this stuff? And he said, well, John, I'm not going to be attacking the American people. I'm only going to be auditing small business. Of course. And they were hiring huge amounts of people. This is under the Bush and Obama administration. Of course they want a ton of people to go audit small business. Nobody to go around and chase down and make sure Walmart's running. Walmart, they shouldn't have the same level playing field as a small retailer. They shouldn't. Small retailers should have an advantage, not the big guys. The big guys have already succeeded. They don't need it. We don't need the effing IRS running around auditing our small business. Leave them alone, goodness. We don't need thousands of agents as they were hiring at the time. Yeah, I'm not saying that we shouldn't go and make sure everybody toes a fair basic line, but If there's any unfairness, it shouldn't be in favor for the big guys. It should be for the small guy. If we err on anybody, it should be the small guy. Leave him a fucking alone. Anyhow, take care, guys. Pretty cool museum, though.